By astounding good luck, because I can't think of any other explanation, both of these guitars are measuring a height of exactly 10 millimeters at the position of the bridge. That means I need two identical bridge blanks 10 millimeters thick, which is kind of the goal. As you may have spotted, there's a tremendous amount of drift on that blade. It's a very narrow blade, not intended for resawing, but I was too lazy to change it over because we're going to need that one on the next step. After a lot of shaping, here is what the bridge looks like with the saddle in place. The weight is a little bit more than I would have hoped because I haven't been able to thin down the wings as much as I wanted, owing to these channel filling strips which would have bottomed out. A heavier bridge tends to accentuate bass and roll off some of the highs. So on a bass guitar it's not quite so much of a problem. But for the second guitar I'm going to attempt a laminated bridge so that I can get the weight down a little lower. While waiting for that to dry, I'm going to sand just a very, very slight scoop into the underside of the bridge so that it will conform to the very slight bow in the top of the soundboard. This is pretty laborious work because spotted gum is a very hard timber. It's just a tiny fraction of a millimetre, but that's all I want. Now I'm going to do the same thing in the transverse direction. Put a channel along here, once again so that it'll conform to a slightly bowed in 2 dimensions soundboard. I'm seeing just a sliver of light along the middle of that. I'm going to hold it up to the light. Using 2 rulers to extend the sides of the neck / fingerboard to where the bridge is at around the full scale line. See if you can spot the flaw in this little argument. This Stu-Mac Bridge-O-Matic or whatever it's called has got 2 little spikes designed to hook into the inside edge of the saddle slot. I've adjusted the offset of these 2 spikes to correspond with the amount of compensation for the E and G strings. And we got a little notch here on an adjustable piece, so I lay that on the 12th fret and I adjust it until it is flush with where the nut will be. and then we spin it around and we use it to position the bridge. There's no 12th fret, there's no frets at all. So I'm going to have to draw a line, and I just have, and rather than have that sit across the fret and position itself automatically, I'm going to have to very carefully manually check that the line that I've drawn is perfectly centered in the notch on that little piece of aluminium. So I'm centering the bridge in between these two rulers. Okay, I've got the notch perfectly straddling where the 12th fret would be if we had a 12th fret. I've got my bridge pin holes perfectly centered in between these two rulers which are extending the fingerboard. I've got these two spikes lying just on the edge of the inside of the saddle slot. Nobody breathe. It's starting to look a bit like a bass guitar, isn't it? And after all of that work, this laminated bridge, which is slightly prettier, but that's not the point, weighs almost as much as this one. There's almost nothing between them. I have no idea. Perhaps this was from a denser piece of wood. Same species.